You're watching the God Summit, brought to you by the Review of Religions.
Allah has manifested His attribute to me in my education when I was in school, in my workplace, and in my marital affairs. I've seen the manifestation of His attributes, especially Al-Ghafur, the forgiver of sins and the hider of faults, and Ar-Rahim, the merciful. He has shown mercy on me in different aspects of my life, which I'm grateful. I have firm faith in Allah, and I believe Allah tries us humans in different ways. The incident of the kidnap happened on a weekend. I was in my house with my children. After our Isha prayer, we went to bed. So around 12:30 a.m., I started hearing some voice and noise in the compound. So my belief was that it's the dog, that the dog is playing with some items in the compound. It continued. I will sleep, wake up, sleep, wake up. Then around 1:30 a.m., I decided to peep from the window. Then I saw two men armed with gun. At that point, I shouted. I was shouting, "Barao, Barao, thief, thief, thief." So I went to the sitting room. I picked up my children. I waked them up. They were 3. And a young boy, too, was staying with me then. He normally comes for the weekend. So I rushed them to the last room. So we locked the door. At that point, I was trying to make some phone calls, but I just couldn't dial any number. So me and my first daughter, we were shouting for help. So they spoke from outside that you better open this door before we break in. We did not open the door, so they broke in. So we locked the room where we were, and before we know it, they were inside, and I had gunshots. I told my kids to lie down. Then I opened the door. About 7 men came in. 3 or 4 of them were armed. They slapped me and dragged me up. "Let's go." And I shouted on the "Please help me with my hijab. My hijab is in my room. Please help me with my hijab." So one of them went to my room to pick up the hijab, while the other asked us to open the door. So we opened the door. He dragged me into the compound, to the gates. So immediately we came out of the compound, I discovered there were more men stationed in my neighbor's house. So they dragged me along. We trekked for almost 5 kilometers or more. We were trekking. I couldn't even walk again. They started dragging me. After walking for about 5 kilometers or thereabouts, there is a waiting vehicle. So they put me into the trunk of the waiting vehicle, and we drove. Immediately they took me out of my house. I started praying, saying a lot of prayers. La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al azim. Astaghfirullah rabbi min kulli zambi wa atubu ilayh. I recited Kursiyu, Fatiha, Falak, Nas, all the Quranic verses I know. I started reciting them. So when we drove in the trunk of the car, I was in the trunk of the car. We drove for like maybe an hour or more. Then they stopped, dragged me further into the bush. There were bikes, 2 or 3 bikes waiting. And off we drove again into the forest. Then after like about 30 minutes, we stopped. When we stopped, they were happy. They were now about 15 of them or more. They were happy, shouting, "Our money has arrived." Kudimuyata told that our money is here. Start calling your people to bring our money, 100 million. We know you. We bring our 100 million. I couldn't even talk. I was just looking at them. They now showed me one man in their captivity, a very old man in his 70s, and his son. They were chained together, and there were bruises all over their body. They've beaten them so much. So they told me that if they can beat this man like this, I should be rest assured that I will get more beatings if my people did not cooperate. Thereafter, they gave me a sack to sleep. I didn't sleep. I was just seated and praying and supplicating supplicating, seeking istighfar. Then in the morning, when I observe it's time for Fajr, I told them to give me water to say my prayer. They obliged. I was given water, I cleaned up, I performed ablution, I said my salat. Immediately I finished, one of them told me that, ba a sallah anan. Ka ki taba sallah anan, in kin koma gidanki ki je kina sallah. That we don't pray here. Don't try praying here again. When you get back to your destination, you can say your prayers. But here, they don't pray. I kept quiet. They served me food. They now said, okay, it's time for you to make the call. Who do you want to call? You need to call somebody. I thought of who to call. The thought of my children too came in. I don't know their fates. I don't know whether they picked them too. I don't know whether my children were crying. I don't know. So their thoughts makes me weep. I wept. Then I said, okay, call my mother. So I gave them my mother's number. So when they called my mother shouted, where are you? We've been looking for you. I said, Mama, I've been kidnapped. She started crying. They shouted at her, this is not a matter of crying. Give us about 100 million if you want to see your daughter alive. My elder brother collected the phone and they started negotiating. Throughout that day, I was there, supplicating, praying. Although not formally, I said my salat in my mind, whether sitting or lying down. I was calling Allah. I never stopped praying. One of the prayers I did, Ya Ayyu, Ya Qayyum, Bi Rahmatika, Astaghith. After 2 nights in that captivity, they relocated us. Then one of their leaders now came to me. He said, Kay, kina salati, kina addu'a, wallahi ina ji ciwon kai kashe ki zan yi. Meaning, you've been praying, you've been reciting Darud, that if he feels headache or any sort, he was going to shoot me. That I should desist from all these my prayers. I kept quiet. Of course, you can't block my heart from saying that prayer. At that point, I already believe that whatever the decree of Allah is on me, I accept. If it's to die there, so I don't have anything to do. But any thought of my children normally makes me weak. So on that very day, they now asked me that my brother is not cooperating with them. And that it seems I will have to call my mom now. The guy now said, he advised me to call my mother. That mothers always have these strong feelings for their children. I should let my mother know because they are going to start beating me up. So I said, okay, call her. So when they called my mother, and I told her, because they didn't allow me to speak any other language, you must speak Hausa. So I said to Mama, kin san ba ni da kowa? My mother said, kina da Allah, kina da Allah. I said, my mom, you know I don't have anybody. Then she said, kina da Allah, you have Allah. You have Allah. I said, no, now they are threatening to start beating and molesting me. Mama, na bar maki yara na amana. At that point, my mother started crying. It means I've given you my children as a trust. Take care of them. He started crying. And if we're like, it's not a matter of crying. Go and source for money. Then they left me. I went back to my space. I continued supplicating. So on the night of that day, when I slept, I now had a dream. That was the 3rd day. I had a dream. In that dream, I saw one of our member, a Lajna member, our district sadar. In that dream, she gave me granuts and said I should give my children. So I gave my children the granuts in that dream. Immediately after the dream, I woke up. As I woke up, I said 2 rakats of Tajud, still lying down, because I can't dare stand up, especially in the night. They've warned us. Lying down, I offered 2 rakats of Tajud, and my mind became at peace. I just was so confident that help is coming. and that Allah has answered my prayer, I was going to leave that enclave. So in the morning, I observed among them that they were not really happy. They were not talking the way they normally talk, and their population reduced. It was about 4 of them that were remaining. So they took us further in the bush again. When we got there, they just sat down. So at that point, after some time, I was so thirsty. I was so weak. I could barely lift my body. I was already famished. I asked them for water. They said there is no water. The previous day, they gave us muddy water, very dirty water. And that was what they were drinking too. So not quite long, I had them talking in whispers because we were asked to cover our face. We cannot look at them. We didn't see them. But me, I was still peeping. Then later, I saw them cocking their gun and moving into one side. I was scared. I was praying. I was still supplicating, praying. Then at the point, I had gunshots. When I had that gunshot, I lied down. The other men were not even moving because they tied their leg and they chained them, covered their face. So I just lay down. And not quite long, I saw some Fulani locals, plenty of them. So I was scared. Maybe it's another group of bandits. Thereafter, some security operatives also came in, and they were telling us, you are lucky, you have been saved. Thank your God. Immediately, I did sujood al-shukr. I give thanks to Allah, and that was how we were rescued. At the point I was kidnapped, there were like 7 or more men at that point. I can't overpower them. I don't have a gun. I don't have any training. I know there's nothing I can do, and it is only God that could save me. There's nobody that could save me. I knew at that point that it was only God, and that was why I turned to Him, only in prayers. When I was released, I was told that many people prayed for me. Some even carried their money, offered sacrifice on my behalf. Those that I know, even those I did not know, they just had it, and all of them started praying for me. My release happened without paying any form of ransom. We did not pay anything. Allah was the only one, through His mercy, that I was saved.